How's everybody doing? Today's video is just going to be a quick discussion about this new guitar that I just got. This is a 2021 Gibson Les Paul Standard 50s. Obviously gold top finish, natural back and sides, very classic outfit for a Les Paul. You know, it's got the 50s neck profile, rosewood fretboard, the gold top finish obviously. As you can see, I took the pick guard off as I do with all of my Les Pauls. So I ordered this guitar because I felt like it. Truthfully, I've always been kind of down on standards just because to me, they're sort of like halfway fancy. So like the studio, you know, you clearly save a lot of money, but you don't get binding or anything. But on standards, you get single binding, which does still look good. It has the fret nibs, which on this one are actually really well done. So, but obviously this is sort of the classic look. I mean, that's why it's a dumb argument to say, well, it's like halfway fancy, but I've always been more of a studio or custom player. But this one is much more classic. And of course, with the current lineup where they have the standard 50s or the standard 60s, I went towards the 50s because it has a bigger neck. So this thing has quite a substantial neck. It's kind of hard to tell on this type of camera lens, but it's got a pretty good, well-rounded feel to it, where you end up finding that if you have large hands like I do, that you end up touching a lot of the neck in a lot of different circumstances where otherwise you might be kind of feeling like you're just sort of bracing your thumb and your hand's floating out in the middle of nowhere. Like I prefer to feel like you've got the neck in your hand. So I unboxed this guitar a couple of days ago, and I didn't really do a video just because I wanted to unbox it just to make sure it wasn't damaged, but I was really way too tired to do a video. But you can see some of the sweeping shots that I got. So this guitar is obviously my first experience with one of the more traditional series of Gibsons that they're now building, being the standard series, the standard 50s and 60s. So they're not really innovating on the standard as much as just keeping it as a standard, which kind of makes sense given the name. And honestly, I was holding off on buying one of these for so long because they're still kind of expensive. And I was thinking like this might only just fill a niche for like classic rock tones because it has these burst bucker pickups that are really low output compared to what I'm used to. Obviously, I mean, if you've watched this channel, then you know that I'm kind of a insufferable cork sniffing snob when it comes to Gibsons, but this guitar seriously blew my mind when I played it for the first time last night. I mean, it really, really impressed me, and that's hard because the last Gibson I got was a custom, so this guitar, fit and finish wise, is just about as perfect as I've ever seen on a Gibson. Definitely the most flawless Gibson USA model that I've ever seen. So if this is any representation of how the series is in general, then they're doing an extremely good job on quality control. I mean, it's just a really, really nice looking gold top. These have no weight relief, so this thing is pretty hefty. But what really surprised me when I was playing it was how smooth the frets and the fretboard and all the edges and everything like that felt. I mean, it feels flawless. I mean, you would hope for that, being I think these are going for $2,600 or $2,700 now. I got this one for $2,300, so that's why I jumped on this one. Plus, I thought it was a really good example. It has a nice dark fretboard. But I got this one from the Gibson demo shop, so it's not modified. It's just a demo that it was discounted to $2,300 instead of $2,600. So that puts it in the used ballpark, and I'm not trying to lose any money if I had to get out from under any guitars anymore. So it worked for me budget-wise, and it's just phenomenally well finished. I mean, it's just really, really nice. I mean, I would lean towards, you know, if I ever were to start playing out in public, if I wanted to just sort of have a go-to where you don't bring out your cheapest and you don't bring out your most expensive guitar, but you want to bring something nice, here you go. But anyway, what really impressed me was the playability. So I started off playing like a few classic rock songs, you know, Gimme Shelter, Born to Be Wild, you know, stuff that I thought this guitar would vibe with. And I ended up playing last night on this thing for over an hour. And I ended with 3 real heavy shredding songs that I was just ripping it. And that's what really surprised me about this, because This guitar has Burstbucker 1 and 2 pickups, which are very low output. I think they're like 7K and 8K ohms. I mean, I don't really need a super high output pickup, but I've always thought like the 490 and 498 that they have in the studio and the custom were pretty good level for me, because those are about like 9K and 13, 14, I think. So this bridge pickup I was concerned was going to be too weak. You know, I've had experience with 57 Classics that were about the same range of output and I hated them, but these are much more dynamic to me than the 57 Classics are. They still have like a nice sort of Gibson-y hollowness to them, like a nice hollow woody sound, but they also have a lot more tanginess. So there's a lot more clarity and tanginess to some of the notes than what the 57 Classics that I've played had. So actually these pickups I'll give them a pass. I think they sound really good, they sound really classic, and I was able to shred with them without changing any of my amp settings. And that's what really blows me away about this, because I always have this thought of like, the ultimate sort of guitar that somebody should aspire to, like if you could have one guitar on a desert island, could you take X, Y, or Z? Like, could you take this to be your one guitar on a desert island, or would it be more of a classic rock niche because it's 50s? But you could definitely take this to be your desert island guitar, and you could play anything you want, even up to heavy metal and shred, which that's what really surprised me about this. I mean, this thing just plays phenomenally. The neck feels amazing to me. It sounds great. You know, it's a little low output, but it sounds killer. I mean, I just found that I was sort of adapting my picking style to compensate for the pickup output, and it was still just playing fine. I mean, I was shredding with it just fine. I've always found it very weird that Brendan Small from Death Clock and Galacticon and stuff like that, he plays really heavy metal songs, and he is sort of known for using Gibsons with Burstbuckers in them, and I've always thought he was crazy for doing that. But now that I've played this, I can kind of get it. So, I mean, you definitely could use this for metal and it would have a great classic sound to it. It would have good dynamics to it, but still sounding warm with the Alnicos. I mean, this guitar I really did think was going to be kind of like just something to have just to cover my bases, to have a standard, but this really does absolutely rules. I mean, this thing plays amazingly. I'm going to have to do a playing demo. I've been thinking about how to do a demo to shoot out between the studio and the custom already, so maybe I'll do one with the studio, the standard, and the custom. But I wanted to just show you guys this new Guitar Day video because this guitar blew me away. I mean, this is a really, really good sign for how Gibson is doing as far as going back to their roots. I mean, I can't believe that even a 50s spec inspired guitar could be so playable and so universally useful. If you want to play classic rock, if you want to shred, if you want to play something clean, you can do it all. And if you like the Goldtop vibe, which I definitely do, I like Goldtops a lot more than like a burst finish, for instance. They're classic as hell, so very badass, love it. So that's kind of the gist of it for this video. I got this 50s standard Goldtop, and it just blew my mind how good it was. I mean, I knew that the 50s would be preferable to me versus the 60s, but I didn't think it was going to be this cool. I mean, this is basically a perfect guitar, and it's not that common that you can say that about a Gibson USA model. So they're doing a really good job on these, if this is any sort of example. And if you like big necks and you're in the market for a guitar that's about $2,500 to $2,700, whatever they are typically, or if you find another one in the demo shop like this for $23, this was a hell of a deal. Try one of these things out. At least just go find one and play it, because I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. This is like, this neck has a ton of room. The guitar sounds great. It can do everything. And it far surpassed my expectations. So that is a really good thing for a Les Paul standard, which I've never traditionally been the biggest proponent of standards of all different types of Les Pauls. They've kind of been sort of in the back of my mind, but not really critical. But this thing is a must play. I mean, this is a great guitar. If you like this video, don't forget to share it and subscribe, but turn on notifications, and I will see you guys next time.